Hi, this is Bob Ferris. I'm an executive advocate with Murphy Business, and welcome to the third installment of Lean Turnarounds. This one is about business model processes. We've already discussed that while there's one business model canvas, there are really two ways of looking at it, the organizational versus the personal, or as I've tried to say, you could say startups versus turnarounds. Now, we've drawn the business model generation process with these four stages. Actually, in the book Business Model Generation, the process is described in 5 stages. The first one is to mobilize the group. Now, the problem is in Business Model U, which is the perspective most of this is done from, there's only you, so there's really no group to mobilize. You can see the other 4 stages pretty much line up as we had them before. So from this point of view, the two processes are fairly parallel, with the big difference occurring right here, design and reflect. Design is looking outward at the market, where reflection is looking in at yourself and your resources. Both books start describing the business model canvas. They both use a single tool. However, when it comes to the second stage of the process, each book not only has a different tool, they have an entire collection of tools that, while they relate to each other in some ways, they're very different. So if we take a look at business model generation and its orientation to design, you can see that there's lots of different tools and techniques that are being presented to help you in your design efforts. I'm not going to go through all of these. That's what you get from the book or from a workshop, although I will want to highlight just one of them, which is called Customer Insights. I usually think of the customer empathy map when I think of customer insights, but we're going to look at it here a little differently. Same thing is true with Business Model U. Okay, within the reflection process, there are many tools and techniques. Again, not going to go over all of them here, but I would like to highlight one of them. I've called it here on the bullet points, what are you like? The actual name is what sort of person are you? And in this exercise, you're given a list of adjectives, and you select the adjectives you think are most appropriate for you, and then you have a similar list of adjectives that you give to somebody else. They circle what they think is appropriate for you, and you compare the two lists, and you gain some insights on how other people see you. Now, you'll know most of the illustrations that I'm using come from the Kindle edition of the two books. I like the Kindle edition. However, since the business model canvas is so visually appealing, the two books have been laid out to be very visually appealing in such a way that can't be reproduced identically in electronic form. So there are differences in the Kindle edition and the printed edition in that regard. However, I kind of enjoy that. As I mentioned, differences in perspectives yield new insights. So as I look at the same topic on the Kindle edition of the book, sometimes new insights emerge just from doing that. And I enjoy both versions. But what I'm going to introduce to you here is from the footnotes in Business Model U, which is completely missing in the Kindle edition. So if you're working from that, this will be new to you. This exercise, what sort of person are you, has a footnote. It goes like this: other ways to obtain similar feedback, and that's the key here, this is a feedback exercise, include engaging a career counselor and using a web-based service such as Checkster.com. Special thanks to foreign member Denise Taylor for her help with these exercises. These web-based services can be a very valuable way to determine what sort of person are you, particularly from other people's points of view. So if we go to the one mentioned, Checkster.com, you'll see it has two levels. You can sign on a free account as an individual, or you can get a premium account for an organization. In either case, there's a four-step process. First, you have to be asking the question, what sort of person am I? Now, they present that as, how am I doing? Then you take a self-evaluation. You do this on the website. There's a number of questions, and you grade yourself in many cases on a scale of 1 to 7. And then you think of other people who know you, and in step 3, you invite them to take the same evaluation, only what is their opinion of you? And then you receive, in number 4, a private report which gives you the results of this feedback. Now, I'm not going to show you everything that's involved in Checkster, but I did do this, and I invited 25 people to give an evaluation. And when I thought about it, rather than trying to keep this exclusively to people that knew me well, I had some of those. I had also people who had just met me, perhaps in a networking meeting, and some people who had small dealings with me. So I wanted the feedback of, how does this broad range of people, those who barely know me to those who know me well, really view me? And when I got the results, there was one question which really appealed a lot to me, and that's the answer to the question, what are Bob Ferris's strongest and weakest attributes? Now, when you get feedback on yourself to a question like this, there's this tendency to go to the weakest attributes. Okay, what don't people like about me? But understand, at this stage, what we're trying to do is create business value. And in order to do that, what we want to know is, what are your strong attributes? So when you look at this, forget your weak points at this stage. What is your strongest attribute? And on a scale of 1 to 7, the strongest attribute came back. In fact, it's 6.8 out of 7. I'm widely trusted and seen as truthful. Now that's a pretty nice starting place. All right, I have people who view me as trusted and truthful. The next step would be trusted and truthful in doing what? Now, since the publication of Business Model U, a new web service, which is very helpful in this regard, came out, and that is the use of endorsements at LinkedIn. Okay, if you have a LinkedIn account, you can have this section in your profile which shows how other people have endorsed you. And in this particular case, I don't have a very large LinkedIn account, but you can see the endorsement of skills that I'm involved with are distributed from strong to weak, and up at the top there is business planning. All right, so it would be nice, okay, if I could create a value so that the customer relationship was that of someone trusted in doing business planning. Now, this is similar to the customer insight tool that's presented in Business Model Generation. Okay, basically these tools are, go to that customer relationship box in the canvas, and instead of thinking, how do you want to relate to your customers, turn it around. How do your customers want to relate to you? And shift your perspective that way. Right? This is going to be very, very useful for those people who are attracted to Business Model U, because they're involved in helping people with personal and professional branding. If you wanted to develop a personal or professional brand, that's going to be a part of your customer relationship, and it should be from the perspective of the customer, not from your perspective. And I believe that this shift of perspective is, in fact, the heart of the whole professional branding efforts. At one point, I decided to develop a professional brand. You've heard me introduce myself as an executive advocate. That's a term I made up. I went onto Google and searched for it, and Google really didn't have much other than web pages that had both the word executive and the word advocate. I am an enrolled agent, which means I have the letters EA on my business card after my name. And so I took on that moniker of executive advocate because it already matched the EAs on my business card, and it seemed to convey someone who could be trusted in helping you with business planning. And if you go Google executive advocate today, you should find many references to me. So we go through and we master all these tools, all right? We basically now have become a master of emergence because we can look at things from different perspectives and take advantages of all the tools from either perspective. In fact, we have become business model alchemists, all right? Being able to use the design tools and the reflection tools as well as the canvas to come up with this great new insights on how we can go forward into the future. So, what do we call you, oh great wise business model alchemist? Well, a good title comes from trying to resolve another issue we sort of discussed in the Business Model U forums. We have different personal and organizational models that are kind of flying around all over the place, and how do we connect them? One idea was illustrated over here on the left. That is, maybe we should do these things in parallel so that we line up complementary value propositions and then go from there. Another way is on the right, a serial way to connect these things. Perhaps one perspective, customers is another model's key partner, and we can try to link them in a chain. I'd like to introduce another way of resolving how do we connect particularly personal business models with organizational business models. Let's look at the difference between a person and an organization. All right, here is a symbol I'm using for a person. That's actually the resources. There you are with all your resources. An organization is going to be a group of individuals, all who have a common purpose, and so they can collectively be looked at as a single corpus. That's Latin for body. Right? That's what an organization is. To map that perspective onto a canvas, what I've done here is taken the organizational canvas from business model generation, and I've made little tiny personal business models and put them in those gray ovals. And those are the key resources. As we discussed before, organizations typically have lots of people, and they all have their own individual personal business model. And in fact, those people, that collection, not only exists here at Key Resources, it also exists over here on customer segments. It also exists over here on key partners. And it can consist of collections elsewhere, but we have at least these areas. So in order to be a master of all of this, you're going to have to be Director of Human Resources, Marketing, and Strategic Alliances. And while that's really cool and it's really great, it's rare that you actually find a single person that's got all that talent. Now, if we go back to where we started, the process as presented in business model generation starts with mobilizing the talent you're going to need. All right, we're going to bring together different people with different strengths so that they can address all the issues that we may be facing. We sort of skip that in business model U, and that has the potential to create problems as we try to implement this stuff. So we're going to go forward into ACT now, but we're going to carry with us the problem that we have because we're very limited in our resources and we didn't mobilize all this. And we're going to talk about how we address these and other issues starting in the next session.